I am so excited you're here. Boundaries have completely changed my life! Exclamation mark. From night to day! Exclamation mark. There was a time when I didn't even know what boundaries were, probably because every single one of mine had been violated when I was a kid. Fast forward to today, and I'm basically the queen of boundaries. Just ask my husband, Ben. Nothing gets past me anymore, and guess what? Our marriage is thriving because of it. I promise you, if I hadn't figured this out, we would be divorced right now. It really has saved my marriage. Ben is thrilled I learned to set boundaries. Now I'm happier, less resentful, and as the saying goes, happy wife, happy life. He'll vouch for that. And I help him learn some boundaries too. So it's a win-win for both of us. Honestly, I could go on for hours about boundaries, and I do in my Hearts and Horses Academy, where I team up with my amazing Swell Retreat horse herd to demonstrate the magic of boundary setting. Fun fact, horses are a lot like humans, emotionally, physically, and physiologically, so they make incredible teacher aids. But since we don't have a couple days to spend on this topic to give it the solid foundation it deserves, I'm going to try my best to shrink it down and share one powerful boundary concept with you right now. I really hope that it helps you the way it's helped my family and myself. So the opposite of a glimmer is a trigger. And it unfortunately brings the bad cortisol that causes us emotional and physical havoc if it's not managed. In this context of self-love, my definition of a trigger is a knock at your emotional door to let you know that you have an unresolved message to address. Often, this message is coming from your subconscious. Typically, your amygdala, like the guard on the watchtower, it sees the threat first and sounds the internal alarms to activate your troops. Some of us have very obedient soldiers and get on the defense with weapons at the ready in a flash. I don't know if you've experienced that, but I certainly have. Before you know it, there's an all-out war, and you reacted before you even knew what you were reacting to. Or some of us have soldiers that just freeze and don't do anything to defend against the incoming attack. Some of us have soldiers that just run away and avoid the scenario altogether. Some of us have soldiers that just give in to the enemy or experience a combination of all of them, depending on the type of knock you received. And then even further, maybe there are multiple types of soldiers, or all of them respond in chaos to one knock, all trying to do their job at once, which can make for a hard experience. I served in the Army for 14 years, enlisted and as an officer. I learned the importance of situational awareness. You become an easy target if you don't know the enemy and their area of operation. I learned a lot about strategy. We want to strive to put ourselves in a strategic offense rather than a more vulnerable defense. So our amygdala on the watchtower is a great asset to our troop lineup, but it needs to be trained, which allows us then to be more on the offense than in the defense. The first step to that is recognizing our triggers. If we aren't aware of them, they can keep us trapped and we don't even realize it. So here's a little bit of foundation for what happens when we experience a trigger. First, there'll be a stimulus. A stimulus is a person, situation, thought, and or experience that activates a trigger. A trigger is an immediate feeling, thought, and or behavior in response to a specific stimulus. And then the behavior is something like avoidance, jealousy, envy, suspicion, anxiety, comparison, overeating, gambling addiction, and the laundry list of things goes on. Some of my triggers include a box on the side of the road. I deployed and roadside bombs were a common thing. Bullies, they put me into action real quick. A name of one of my primary predators from my childhood. Going to the grocery store can trigger me if I don't have a prior plan. When Ben doesn't turn off his phone and pay attention to me when I'm trying to speak with him. I also get triggered when I'm tired and my children aren't listening. Some examples of stimulus that ignite a trigger can come from your senses. Smells can cause it, sounds, sights, textures, places, being in a crowd, or being back at a place where you had a traumatic event before. People with different personalities, actions from others, angry people, rejection, perceived abandonment, feeling ignored is just a few of stimuluses that can trigger us. In the Army, as a leader, I was taught MET-TC, which is a framework to help analyze a situation in order to make a plan. So today, I'm going to provide you a tool, a framework that I created called Soft Beeb. Oh, so it's actually in my book. Let me grab that. Sorry, I thought I had it here. Oh, it's right here. Okay, so in her unseen battle, I wrote a chapter. And here on page 141, this is the book. Soft Beeb is number 1 is stop. So as soon as we have a stimulus and we recognize that we're having an emotional response and thoughts, we want to stop. And then the O stands for opt out of the environment. And so physically, if you can do this, you can go to the bathroom or go to your bedroom or excuse yourself from the situation. Or sometimes mentally, you have to be able to do that. Number 3, focus on my breath. It takes 90 seconds for an emotion to pass through us. But if we react to that emotion, then it fuels it. You're basically telling your amygdala to keep the forces armed and to take action. T, what did the person's situation do that caused the trigger? So were you at the grocery store? Did someone say something and it made you feel violated or uneasy? And then B, what behavior did I exhibit when I was triggered? Did I fight? Did I run away? Did I freeze? What action did you take as a result of the trigger? And E, what emotion was sending me a message? Ultimately, the emotion is super important, and we dive a lot into that in the Hearts and Horses Academy. And then the next E, expose. What emotional wound in my past was exposed? We dive deep into emotional wounds, core emotional wounds. We don't have the time to do that today, but, and then B, the last B, emotions are messengers. How can I navigate this emotion, person, and experience and create a boundary for myself? So the goal is to learn from each of these experiences that happen so that you're aware of when you get triggered, and then you have a plan for what to do next time that stimulus presents itself. So you don't get wrapped up in a cycle or different patterns that aren't serving you. So I really love this information. I think it's so important to teach our children, to know about ourselves. So there's a lot here. I'm trying to just give you a little taste of it so that you can be a little bit more aware. But this can maybe help you get started on that awareness journey. So write down your answers to Soft Beeb in your journal, a note on your phone, or a trigger book like a journal. that's just for that purpose as quickly as you can after you've had the opportunity to think through what the scenario was and how you responded. If you aren't having any current triggers, reflect on past times that may have been a trigger for you. So kids' behavior can often be triggering to adults, particularly if we're already overwhelmed and we don't have the capacity to navigate what they need at that point in time. When did you feel jealous? When did you compare yourself? Different questions that you could ask yourself if you haven't had a current trigger, but can put you back in that situation where you can kind of think through this framework of soft beeb. So thank you for showing up today for yourself, filling your love tank with a little dose of awareness and attention. Truth really is love, and the more we can align with who we truly are and what our needs are and setting our boundaries, we have the right people in our lives, we have the right situations in our lives, and it really is joyful. So we are doing a Hearts and Horses webinar on the 19th, next Wednesday, 5 to 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And we'll give a more clear overview of what the gift horses bring to us as we learn from them. They are incredible. I got stuck in my business. I couldn't progress. I had these emotional core wounds that resulted from childhood, and I couldn't move to the position that I needed to in my business to grow it. And then my divorce was on the verge, my marriage was on the verge of divorce. A second marriage. I did not want that to happen, but I didn't have the right tools. I tried counseling, I tried all these things, and I wasn't getting to the root of it. And this horse experience led me down this journey that has been phenomenal. And I'm so excited to share it with you. Ben and I use horses to demonstrate some experiences where you could see firsthand and allow you to more clearly see yourself in the horse, which is an incredible experience. So the most important work we can do to create a life we love is to know yourself. So I look forward to having you on that Hearts and Horses webinar, and we'll see you there.